Big Mountain has special guests to have some fun drafting a 64 team Super League.
Conference realignment and conference expansion are always in the news. So we're back on the Big Mountain to have a little fun and show you how a 4-conference Super League could look.
Hey, nice to have you back on the mountain. I am JY, and this is my good friend Steve. Steve, we're in for a very special episode, and we warn you it will be long, so you may have to watch this in parts, but that's okay. You're allowed to do that. And we're inviting some special guests on. We have 2 special guests to help us draft, and we also have a special guest to help us decide who's the winner of this whole thing. But let's tell our viewers what in the world we're gonna do here, and this was really your brainchild, so I'm gonna let you explain it to them.
Yeah, JY, so you and I, we had done a little kind of a mini Super League draft a few months back and a couple months ago, and you know, that just kind of got me thinking about just the current state of college football. You know, they're looking at, you know, maybe Congress helping out. There's all these lawsuits. There's all these rumors of a Power 2 merger. So it gave me the idea of what would happen if, let's say, you know, Congress intervened, they made a law, and the NCAA could come in and basically from scratch create a new super conference of the haves, the football programs of the haves, and separate from the have-nots, you know, what it could look like. So my premise on this was we decided to go with 64 teams, and I wanted to have 4 conferences because, you know, we've had different numbers of power conferences, but to me, a power like 4 conferences gives you the best, where you can build 4 kind of, you know, not necessarily equal conferences, but competitive conferences that still maintain some of that flavor of regionality, which we've all loved about college football dating back as far as I can remember. Regionality has been a huge thing. It creates those regional rivalries. It's just been a part of college football. So we decided to do a draft, do this kind of like a little game. Like you said, we have some guest pickers. We have some special guests here, and we're going to have 4 conferences. And so I decided to go with the West, led by USC, just kind of the traditional program of the West Coast. The Midwest, anchored by Ohio State, again, just another historic traditional program who's on a you know, a high note right now, and really, you know, has been throughout the history of college football, has been one of the most important programs, and especially for that region. And then we looked at the South, and I decided to go with Alabama. Again, just traditionally one of the most powerful programs. And when you think of football in the South, Alabama, you know, that's just quintessential right there. So they're going to anchor the South. And then, you know, the last part might be a little controversial. And obviously I'm a Penn State fan, I'm a Penn State homer. But I was thinking about what if, you know, back in the 90s, Penn State joining the Big Ten kind of really ushered in this new era of conference realignment. And back then, Penn State they had a choice. They had 2 paths to go: joining the Big Ten or going out east, joining the Big East. A lot of their traditional rivals at the time were part of that, you know, part of the Big East. So what would have happened? This is kind of a what if. You know, if Penn State, who was looked at as the beast of the East back then, they were an independent power. What if they stayed in, you know, in the East, joined the Big East as a traditional power? Could the East Coast have sustained their own power conference without, you know, maybe dipping into the South or whatever? Could they do that, or would they still have to dip into the South or into the Midwest in a Big Ten country to be able to have a strong East Coast conference? So we've got the West, the Midwest, the South, the East. To ensure regionality, we decided to make this, it has to have a contiguous footprint. So we're going to do a draft, a snake draft, fantasy draft style, back and forth. And a couple of the rules to ensure regionality are: 1, they have to be contiguous from one pick to the next. So as you expand your conference footprint, you can add more schools. But, you know, starting in just the example of USC, starting in California, you have to go, your next state has to border that state. And then, you know, as you move on, it has to border one of the states you've already picked in. But we can have conferences just like in you know, traditional times. You have conferences that are both in one state at a time. State of Texas, state of Florida come to mind. Even state of Oklahoma, you know, with Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. So the conference must be contiguous. So that's gonna, you may see some picks that you're like, what the heck? Why
Yeah.
is someone picking that? Well, that's a bridge to ensure that contiguous footprint. And the other thing other rule that I stipulated was you could only be in three time zones at most. Okay, so that means the East Coast and the West Coast, they're not going to compete. But you do have the South and the Midwest that can kind of go either way and compete with both. So that ensures the regionality of this. And then another big part of it that we want each conference commissioner to look at is the TV markets, the brand value of the teams and the TV markets, because they're going to be selling this. And the final step is that after they draft their conference, they have to make a pitch to a media personality or a media executive and get a media value for their conference. And that was another reason we went with four. There's four traditional media powers in ABC, Disney, CBS, Fox. What's the other one I'm missing here? NBC. So there's four traditional media partners, and each one can bid on these conferences. And we're going to have another special guest, as JY mentioned, come in and give us that media executive just give us a value on it, give us their perspective. And it might be someone who's not even tied into college football as much as we are, and we want them to look at it more from a just a media executive, a guy sitting in the C-suite at NBC, at Rockefeller Plaza, whatever, 30 Rock. How much does he want to bid for this conference? So again, this is a project. It's fun. It's going to be a long video, just like watching your buddies do a fantasy football draft with college football teams instead of fantasy football players. So bear with us. It's something we want to have a lot of fun with, and we want your feedback. Tell us, did we screw up? Did we make a stupid pick? What were we thinking? Whatever. Who should we have picked? Give us your feedback on that, and give us your feedback on what you think the values of the conference are. So with that, I think I'm ready to get started. How about you?
Yeah, sounds good. I'm anxious to see how people kind of focus on either the regionality piece or maybe the market value piece or the expansion of their geography. Yep. So lots of things that people have to think about, or the four drafters, the commissioners, have to think about. And maybe one pick you're thinking more market value, and another pick you're thinking kind of expanding your footprint. Certainly early on, kind of that East, Midwest, and South. Yep. They're going to be battling it out, where the West guy is going to be kind of on his own for a little bit.
Playing in the sandbox.
Yeah. So I'm anxious to see how that all turns out. So, yeah, let's get into it. We're going to swipe over here to our Zoom call with our special guest. We have Stephen Vitt. He also has Bobcat Corner that he does on YouTube. And that college football guy, we're going to call him Bill, but he has his own podcast as well. You and I watch him a lot. So we're happy to have both of these special guests on here to help us do this draft. So here we go.
I'm ready.
All right. Well, we are happy to welcome both Bill and Stephen to the show here to do our drafting. We'll do quick introductions here, and then we're going to get to it. All right. Does that sound good?
I'm ready.
Let's rock and roll. Let's start with Bill. I think everybody knows Bill as that college football guy. I know I watch him often. He drops several times a week. Good stuff. So I don't want to take his thunder. I'll let him introduce himself, Bill.
Oh, thanks. Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks, everyone, for having me here. I am that college football guy, just a truck driver, being a college football fan and trying not to drive everyone crazy, although I've been accused of that from time to time. Basically, we all are the same thing. People who just love college football, we love everything about it. And occasionally, there are some things we see that realize, well, maybe there's a different way of looking at things. There's always a different way of seeing everything in college football. Now, I have my take. Some people like it, some people don't. But I wouldn't do my show any other way.
For sure.
So tell me.
You know where Bill stands.
Yes,
absolutely. That's what I love about his show.
Yes. And he keeps me honest. Whenever I put something, he's like, I don't know, Steve. I don't know if I'd do that.
I try to be as honest as I can, because when you've been a little bit older, as we all know, foolishness does not play a part of the equation anymore. Not at all.
Well,
I can't
welcome.
wait to get into this.
Yeah, well,
We're
welcome.
excited.
We're really excited to get into it as well. This, as I had said, Steve's kind of brainchild here. Something he's been wanting to do. Let's get to Steven, an Ohio Bobcat fan. I know he has his own podcast that he just started recently. So welcome here, Steven.
Um, Hello, guys. My name is Steven Vitz, and I'm a relatively new YouTuber when it comes to college football videos. I've been hosting my own show called Bobcat Corner. Just a few episodes into it, and as for a little background information about myself, I live in the foothills of Appalachia in the small town of Chillicothe, Ohio, and obviously I'm in that area where I hear so much about the Ohio State Buckeyes, but also about the Ohio Bobcats. And when it comes to following teams, I do I do care about the Ohio State Buckeyes. I have a love for them, but I just happen to appreciate the Ohio Bobcats more. Yeah, I'm always more about the little guy, and in light of what's been going on with conference realignment and related issues, I think it's more important than ever to really start supporting the little guy. So it's funny because it's when I was a kid, I was just Ohio State Buckeyes fan, but as I get older and now I'm an adult, obviously I'm more towards Ohio Bobcats. So it's funny how that works. So yeah, but anyway, Bobcat Corner is just my show, uh, just where I talk about topics related to college football in general, not just Ohio Bobcats, but just anything related to college football. And my
Awesome.
channel name is STV Castle.
STV Castle. Yep.
Yes.
You find Bobcat Corner on there. I've watched
Yep.
several of his episodes. They've been great. I think he just tried out his first live episode. So
Ooh.
diving into the live episode realm.
Yep.
Awesome. That's fun. I was pushing that for a while. JY, he was holding me back.
I
holding
slow
me
played
back.
it. I
Yeah.
did. Oh my. So, all right, are we ready?
I think
Anything
so.
you want to say, Steve?
Yeah. So just real quick, again, thank you guys for joining us. I mean, the two of you are two of our most intelligent viewers since we started this. Your comments are great, and we enjoy your channels. So when we decided to do this, we had 4 teams. You guys were our main 2 picks that we wanted to do to help us out with this. So we're excited. And I just wanted to recap of the mechanics. We're going to get started here. There's 4 conferences: the West with JY, the Midwest with Steven, the South led by Bill, that college football guy, and the East is going to be myself. And again, in the East, we have Penn State. In the South, we're going to start with Alabama. In the Midwest, we're starting with Ohio State, the Buckeyes. And out West, we're going to start with USC, those Trojans. So we're going to get kicked off. And as a reminder, this is a snake draft. So we'll go back and forth across. Each will pick one by one, have to be contiguous states. So let's go ahead and get started. JY out West.
All right.
You already got USC. Who's your first pick?
I already have USC as my number 1 given pick for the West.
Yep.
Only makes sense that I'm the West. And not because I live in the West, but because I like the mountains,
Yes.
of course. So there's only one way there's 2 ways to go. I can go north or I can go east. And I got to start off going east because, who the heck else is going to get up to the Northwest here for quite some time. So I'm going east. I'm going into the great state of Arizona. And of course, am I taking Arizona State or am I taking Arizona? And I'm taking Arizona State in Phoenix, growing population. I like it there. I was a little back and forth on which one I was going to take, but I'm taking the team in Phoenix, for crying out loud, or the school, I should say, in Phoenix.
You know what's funny is I gamed this out. Now, obviously, you and I have known each other a long time.
Did
We were
you
in
get
middle
me right
school,
or
and I
wrong?
knew that exactly. I had Arizona State. I picked that because they have a hockey team, they have a wrestling team. Just seemed more your vibe.
That is not why I picked them, but
Okay.
I may. But hey, you got it right anyway. So, all right. So, first team off the board that isn't already given to us, Arizona State. So we go over to the Midwest. Steven, where are you headed? You've got a lot of option. I'm anxious for the beginning because it's going to be kind of telling which direction people. Not for me. I think everybody kind of knew where the heck I was going, but I'm interested. It's definitely here with Steven and Bill. So, Steven, where are you going?
Well, when making my draft board going into this event, I found quite a bit of options, and I'm not going to lie to you guys. I was very torn between at least 3 or 4 different options. for the #1 pick. And obviously, I have Ohio State to start, but my first official pick, it was just really hard. It was just between brand power, between geographic location, and trying to balance all those categories out. And you know, you run a risk when you're having these kind of snake drafts. And I just have a hint, JY, you're going to have a good night. I'm just giving you a hint, JY. You're going to have a good night. Just a little hint there. But anyway, as for my first pick, I went back and forth between these two programs, and I think for now, with the first pick of this conference of mine, which I'm going to call the Appalachia Conference, it has a good history. It has a good history of head coaches, and it has relatively good brand power, but it's not the program that you may be thinking of. Give you another hint. Bobby Bowden.
Oh.
Ah.
With the #1 pick, I am choosing the University of West Virginia.
Wow. A surprise. All right.
That's aggressive, and I love it.
Yeah. That puts the pressure on me.
Yes, it's fantastic. I like that a lot, Steven, just because it squeezes the person to my left.
Yep.
Like I said, you're going to have a good night, JY.
I like it for another reason, too, but I mainly like it because of the squeeze.
Yeah.
All right, Bill, you're up.
Oh, my goodness. I love the pick. But I have a few options as well. I was trying to think, which way do I want to go? Because I have to worry about somebody coming from the West, and I have two coming from the North. So which way do I go? And I was torn, too. I'm thinking, but it all came down to one simple fact. I need to lock down the best as fast as possible since I'm in the South. So I already have Alabama, which is basically the #1 brand, or you could argue top 3 brand in all of college football. I'm going to go with another top 3 brand who's right next door. Maybe they can actually start beating Alabama now that Nick Saban is retired. So I'm referring to Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs. Hopefully we can have some entertaining football games instead of a back and forth between those two universities, where instead of one winning all the time, it's actually more of a balanced matchup, which would make it a lot more entertaining for everyone else. Maybe Georgia come back down to earth so everybody else has a chance to get back in it.
Right. Love it.
What did we say? I'm sorry.
Georgia.
Okay.
That's not surprising.
No, I
kind of thought that's where he was.
I thought he was talking about both Georgia and yeah. Okay, that makes sense. All right.
I also like it because he went east.
Yeah, and so it was kind of a surprise pick from Steven there, and he went with something aggressive.
I love it.
Bill goes with the safe play.
I love the
West South.
I figured he was going to go West Virginia to mess with you, Steve. That was the cutoff move, and he did a brilliant job. Brilliant.
But I think I have something in mind here, so that opens up some other scenarios for me. So first of all. So now we're to the east, and I have 2 picks here. I'll go through them one at a time. So I was going to go West Virginia, actually. I was going to go with my first pick. It was a good, opened me up with some different avenues. But now what I'm going to do, I want to build a bridge over kind of to the Midwest, since I feel like Steven kind of left me an opening there. So my first pick is actually going to be Cincinnati there. Gets me into the state of Ohio. And then, I have 2 massive brands over here. That gives me a bridge over to Indiana, or the state of Indiana, or the state of Michigan, which 2 massive brands there. And I'm going to kind of keep with my, just that idea of regionality to kind of be the tiebreaker between the 2 schools I'm thinking of, is either sneaking up to take Michigan, which, wow, if I could split Michigan up from Ohio State, that'd be great. Or over in the state of Indiana, we got Notre Dame there in South Bend. So I'm going to go with that that kind of that old school, I'm thinking of those 70s and 80s games, the possibility of the Big East, And wow, how awesome would it have been for the old Big East to get Penn State and the University of Notre Dame, which everyone knows I love them so much.
I didn't know which way you were going there.
Yeah. Well, Notre Dame traditionally had rivalries with a lot of those Big East schools with Penn State. So yeah, that's what. So I'm on the board here after Penn State. I got Cincinnati and Notre Dame, and we're right back to Bill in the South. That college football guy.
Well, that you definitely threw me a little bit of a curveball there, but all right, I love it. It's aggressive. Then again, I figured everybody's gonna be aggressive except for JY being nice and polite.
He's just
But-
playing out there out on the desert by himself.
I'm just doing tiddlywinks out on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Until about okay. But anyway, I have a lot of options to go through here, and I keep thinking, which way do I want to go? But a certain thing I have to realize is that there are value in many directions here. And some of it is north. And so maybe not surprising to some, but I'm wearing their gear. I'm picking the Tennessee Vols. They have their value, which as a university in the state of Tennessee, they basically they have maybe 94% of the people in the state of Tennessee and some of the surrounding areas, as well as they're expanding their football program. Basketball is getting better, which is going to be a key in media for the next few years, as we all know that the NCAA tournament shares are going to become more and more important.
Yeah,
they're getting better, but hopefully we'll be getting better. But I'm going to go with the Vols, personal reason, but also for the fact that I think they'll be very important with my strategy here.
Yeah, I mean, a conference again. We have that. We see that in the SEC, but a Southern Conference with the Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, three historic classic rivalry programs makes a lot of sense.
Well, and the way we're doing this, he just added 4 states to his repertoire of picks.
Yeah,
Picking availability.
Love it.
All right, Steven, what you got?
Well, that makes the choice easier for me because the last 3 picks were all on my top tier of my draft board. Believe it or not, with what Steve just picked and what Bill just picked. So that makes it much easier for me. And it just makes so much sense for this number 2 pick that I'm going to make here. With the second pick in this draft, the Appalachia Conference selects the University of Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah, like you said, just makes total sense. You got down, you did your aggressive move, you got down into West Virginia, and now you're making that safe pick of Michigan. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, now we're back in the West out here. JY's got 2 picks. Let's see how he was out there playing tiddlywinks, but let's see.
You guys having all kinds of fun.
Yeah,
I'll try to get over to you. I'm going to use the 4 corners of the 4 corner states, and I will be taking the Buffaloes of Colorado.
All right.
And then from there, I am going to be going slightly south and taking Oklahoma because I gotta get some Oklahoma and Texas schools into my conference.
Makes a lot
So
of sense.
I'm taking on my wrap around here, Colorado and Oklahoma.
And just for our viewers at home that maybe missed the beginning when we went over this, you might be wondering why the heck is Oklahoma going 3rd overall, or 3rd for JY. It has to be contiguous. We're moving from state to state. So that's a perfect bridge. You use the 4 corners, bridged over. You got Colorado, Oklahoma, just a historically awesome program.
Yes, I thought maybe I was going to be racing Bill to get to Oklahoma and Texas, but I appreciate the way he's taken his route. And now who are we back to here? We're back to Steven.
We're back to Steven in the Midwest. Appalachia.
There we go.
Appalachia. At least the conference that the name I give it, Appalachia Conference. Yeah. Well, now I got more options again. And it gets a little bit more interesting because I have to really pick and choose which one to go with. And I think I'm going to go with this. As far as geographic footprint goes, and this is like the main reason why I'm going to go with this university, but also because it has had like a decent amount of success in recent years, like last decade. Not a whole lot of success, but a little bit, and it fits with the geography of this conference. So we have Ohio State, we have West Virginia, and of course we have Michigan. Now I'm going to go to another state that touches that entire region, and that would be the state of Kentucky.
Hmm.
And my next pick would be the University of Louisville.
Okay.
All right.
It's
Louisville
another school that
Cardinals.
I had my eye on.
Touches a lot of other states, as he was saying.
Yep.
Geography piece plays into this maybe more for some of us than others, but geography is very important in order to get to some other schools you may want in your conference. So
Awesome. So next up, we're back to Bill in the South, that college football guy. He went with the Vols. He trusted his heart. Now let's see where he goes.
Well, now it's time to do a little bit of strategy because I can see that JY is making a beeline this way. So we're going to have to go over a little bit. I would not rank them this high, but considering the fact of where I need to move to, I think it probably would be the best move in the matter of this. I'm thinking about taking, as crazy as it sounds, I'm taking Ole Miss.
mhm.
Normally, I would not put them at value, but they do have some media value. Them Mississippi State and Ole Miss have been battling each other. One is on top, one's in the other. They both have great media value. Ole Miss now with Lane Kiffin has more media value, and also with the fact that they're trying to usurp Alabama in the West, and as we have seen, spending almost every dollar they can find to make it happen.
Mm.
But I think for me, Ole Miss is going to be the next logical move.
I was really wondering there. I thought you either might go Ole Miss or Arkansas. I was really those two. I was interested to see where you would go. And Ole Miss, I think, makes a lot of sense. It fits your regionality, the traditional rivals. I mean, Ole Miss with Tennessee and with Alabama. I think it's great. I think it's
Yeah.
a great pick.
No doubt.
Okay, so now we're back out east. With me last pick, last time around, I was able to take 2 picks. I was able to bridge over, get Notre Dame, which I'm very happy about. So this time I'm gonna move out a little bit differently here.
Oh,
And I'm gonna go. I'll do the picks here separately. I'm gonna go with Maryland next. It's funny because there was so much contention about them joining the Big Ten. It was basically just, hey, let's bring them on for, TV viewers, all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, they're that mid-Atlantic state. They're the bridge to the South. If the Big Ten wanted to move down South, if I want to in the East, if I want to go down South, Maryland is a great bridge for me, especially since somebody took West Virginia from me. And I don't think I'm about to take Marshall right now at this high yet. So, going with Maryland, and then I'm going down to Virginia Tech. Love it. Again, I'm pretty sure that they're an old Big East school, if I remember correctly. Huge fan base, just a great, the Enter Sandman, and they play in their stadium with the blackout and everything. Just great school, great history, fits the profile of being one of the beasts of the East. I love it. Virginia Tech.
Bill, I heard you groan. What was the groan?
Well, I already he went exactly the way I thought he was going to go. He's going to make his move south. I fully expected that. I'm seeing the move happening here now. I have options where I wanted to go, but I realized, you know what? It's time to lock this down as best I can. And some people may be surprised with this pick about venturing out, going too far, but this one is a little bit different. Since Steve is breathing down my neck and this is a risk type game, I'm thinking that he's probably going to try to jump down into Florida as quickly as he possibly could. Possibly. But I do want to lock this up quickly and get this done because I know nobody else can touch the other one. So I'm going to go grab Florida State, the Seminoles. Now, I normally would have said Florida, but as those who've been long-term viewers of college football, I hear fans saying, well, Florida needs to get back to the glory years. Get back to winning. Except for Steve Spurrier's run and Urban Meyer's run, what you see now winning between 5 and 7, 7 and 5 is what they've been for like the last 70 years. They don't win, but they do have phenomenal viewership. But Florida State has a tradition of winning, has the more established brand, even though they're not the quote unquote full state university, the one that has the largest footprint, they do have as we have heard lately, a very passionate fan base who will back them no matter what and will say and do anything, which I love that.
Yep.
I love the energy from it. I love the passion. So with that in mind, I'm taking the Florida State Seminoles.
Makes a lot of sense. All right. So Stephen, back to the Midwest and Appalachian Conference here. Last pick you had Louisville. What are you looking at now? Louisville.
I believe I'm going to stick with geographic location, the footprint, because I think that's been working for me lately. Although I'm still thinking about brand power, I'm not forgetting about that at all. But I think for now I have to stick with geographic location, and I think it's going to be good to pick a rival of one of the teams in my conference already. So with the next pick, which would be my fourth pick, I'm going to go with it. West Virginia, you are going to have your backyard brawl. I'm picking the University of Pittsburgh.
Ooh.
Nice.
Yeah. Definitely a team I had my eye on. Stephen, he just keeps sticking the knife in me. But good pick. Yeah. I mean, definitely Louisville and West Virginia. All three of those schools, West Virginia, Louisville, Pittsburgh, all have had different rivalries. But like you said, the backyard brawl, West Virginia and Pittsburgh, huge rivalry. It's classic brand power, classic historic rivalry. And it gets you into Pennsylvania, into those Pennsylvania TV markets, which I think is huge. Okay, so next we're back to JY over here playing Tiddlywinks out west. He's got 2 picks.
Not surprising. I did all of that to get to Texas.
Yeah.
Although I'm very happy. Not to knock on Oklahoma.
Yeah.
It's not a knock on anybody that I picked, but my goal was to get to Texas as quickly as I possibly could, and that's what I've done. So of course my first pick is going to be Texas because that's why I wanted to get to. So I am very happy that I have both Oklahoma and Texas. We were just talking about rivalries. And you know what I'm going to do, Steve? I am going to just stay in Texas since I'm the only one there.
Yeah.
I'm not venturing anywhere else at this point. I'm happy where I'm at. And I'm going to get Texas A&M as well.
So
I'm Texas and Texas A&M.
JY won the race. I was really that was what I thought was interesting between the three of you. Who would win that race? You know, there was different pathways and Bill kind of got, I can see here, he kind of got stuck in the middle here, looking left, looking right. You know, who do I protect against? Either myself coming down the East Coast or JY coming from, over from Texas. But JY won that race. And I mean, that's huge. Getting both of those two massive schools, Texas and Texas A&M. That's huge. All right. So, we're back to Stephen in the Midwest and Appalachia.
Okay. So now I happen to follow a MAC school, right? And there are not many G5 schools that are, really warranting a promotion to power conference status. There are some, but not many. And so if you were to ask me, Stephen, which MAC school, if you had to choose one, would be most deserving of getting a promotion to a power conference? And before you guys ask, no, it's not the Ohio Bobcats. I'm not going there. I love the Ohio Bobcats, but they're fine just where they're at the MAC. So who would it be? I'm also looking at the TV markets, the strength of the TV markets for a conference. And I just put 2 and 2 together with this next pick. And it may be out of the blue, but as far as regionality goes and TV market strength, it does make sense. So this may be a gamble, but with the 5th pick, the Appalachian Conference selects the University of Buffalo.
Okay. That was a school that JY and I talked about before we did our college football 2030 project, and we said pretty much the MAC would stay put the way it is, but we saw Buffalo as one of those schools that maybe could be targeted for a move up because of the TV conference getting up into New York State. So that very interesting there. Okay, so back to Bill in the South. That college football guy took Florida State from me last time. Can't believe it. What's he gonna do to me now?
Well, JY did, unfortunately, with my little mock draft, I thought did exactly what I thought he was going to do. He ran the race and did it. So, okay, now I'm going to go with the move that I was debating on doing first, but I realized with JY it wasn't going to happen. But they have a lot of rivalries and a lot of brand power, a lot of tradition, and are one of the more interesting environments to play at night, and a very passionate fan base. And that is the LSU Tigers. They are absolutely incredible. And I'm wondering just where Steve's going next.
Well, first I want to comment on LSU Tigers. Great pick there. And to me, you would be in danger if you didn't take them there. I can't remember exactly where the time zones fall, but we have to stay in 3 time zones. But I think they're central. So technically, JY
Yes.
could have came over and taken those. I mean, I don't know how much they fit with a West Coast, but whatever. So you had to do that. You had to lock it down. And I do want to say, Bill, I want to say JY beat you that race, but I noticed you had a path there after Tennessee. You could have gone Arkansas to Texas. But you locked down Florida State and LSU. I mean, those are 2 huge brands. They make so much sense for the South. And in today's environment, who's in the news, who's winning championships, who is the big TV ratings, the awesome places to play. Florida State and LSU there. So you lost the race to Texas, but those are 2 huge schools to go with. You agree with JY? You were shaking your head.
I mean, Bill's killing it.
Yeah, he's doing fantastic.
So, and I won the race to Texas, but
yeah, and
his top 6 are better than mine.
Yeah, I agree. He's doing well.
But Bill, your packs can be far better than mine because you can backtrack.
Yes, I do. I am out.
Schools.
I am leaving some kind of for later rounds and
juicy
fruit later on. Yes, I do have it pretty good in that regard. So
okay, so I've got 2 picks here. The next one. So again, we're talking about regionality, we're talking about TV and media value, but we're also talking about that brand power. To me, one of the best just brands and iconic brands in college sports, maybe not with a football success, but just a fantastic brand, UNC Tar Heels. Got to go there next. I picked up Virginia Tech. UNC, again, haven't had the football success, but I want to be down in that state of North Carolina for sure. And I mean, that's the brand. If you're in Carolina, I mean, they're not even, we have family members down there. They don't even call them North Carolina or UNC. They just call them Carolina. Like everybody there, that is the brand. If you're in Carolina, UNC Tar Heels. So I got them. And then, my next, I got to go with Clemson. Okay. Again,
I assumed you would.
Yeah. Again, the brand power, at least in the last, the last 50, the Dabo era. We'll see how it goes after that because they were kind of, smaller before that. I think maybe they did have one national championship years back before Dabo. But the way things are going right now, and again, this kind of matches maybe what the Big Ten is trying to do. We'll see, but I got to go Clemson. So UNC, Clemson are my 2 picks, and we're right back to Bill in the South.
And Steve went exactly where I thought he'd go. That it's 2 UNC and Clemson are 2 incredible brands, 2 iconic brands. Now, if only Dabo can figure out what the transfer portal is, it'd be absolutely fantastic. But unfortunately, might be coming into the Clemson Service Academy at this point.
Yeah.
But my next pick here, I'm going to go with an in-state rivalry. And one that has been playing quite a bit. And it's also to cut Steve off. And so I know where he's going to go, I think. But I have to go with the Florida Gators. They are been traditionally labeled as the SEC will tell you they're the only no, there's a lot more universities. There's actually 4 Power 4 universities in the state of Florida. But Florida and Florida State have had each other's throats for many, many years. And I think having that as a yearly rivalry game in conference would actually be very, very interesting.
Agree.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Okay.
I was anxious to see what Bill was going to do because he is now getting attacked from multiple fronts.
Yep.
And I didn't know if he was going to protect against you or maybe try to eke towards me, but he's letting me be. I appreciate that.
And if you look at it, Bill's got all the traditional powers of the SEC, which is
Yeah.
obviously a strong conference, plus Florida State. So he's doing well for himself. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to make my pick,
Oh,
but I don't want to interrupt
we
you.
still you're skipping.
Oh
over
my
Steven.
gosh, Steven. I
Steven.
can't skip
Uh-oh.
over.
Midwest Appalachia.
I was the first one to make the faux pas.
Yep. Exactly.
Sorry, Steven.
Picking out a turn. I think he should lose a pick for that.
Okay.
All right, Steven, what you got?
Okay, so I've been sticking to a geographic location, and I really do want to stay true to the name of the conference, the Appalachia Conference. I really do. But I also realize that I have to get some star power, so to speak, brand power when it comes to just recognizable names and a strong TV market. So where exactly am I going to go next? Well, I think I'm going to go with the team in the state of Kentucky again.
Oh.
And I think I know which one it is. So with the sixth pick, the Appalachia Conference is going to select University of Kentucky, the Wildcats.
Yeah, really good brand. I think that's the first SEC school to be picked off. I think that Bill didn't get control of, if I'm counting right. But good brand goes with your brand. Goes with your Appalachia brand, like you're talking about, and also with your starting Midwest location. They're adjacent. Right across the river from Ohio. And again, a good rivalries with Louisville, with West Virginia. I like it. Yeah.
Well, I got some SEC schools.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, new SEC. I'm talking traditional SEC.
Oh, my bad.
Schools, not Jason come lately schools.
Yeah.
All right. So we're back in the West. JY's got 2 picks.
Is it my turn?
It's your turn now.
Okay. This might surprise some people. I don't think it'll surprise Steve. He likes to talk about these or this school and this team. And they're just the powerhouse of this area. They've got a huge following, and they like to husk corn. So I'm going Nebraska.
That's huge.
Oh.
And then I get the swing around, and this will be the halfway mark of our picking, at least for me. Well, for all of us, this is round 8. So I'm struggling here.
Well, before you make this pick, then let me comment on Nebraska. Yeah, again, another historic. Obviously, they haven't had the football success the last 10 years that they had in the past, but a historic brand. You compare that or combining that with Oklahoma. That Nebraska-Oklahoma rivalry was huge for years.
Yeah,
and you got those Texas schools. I mean, you're definitely getting some brand power there.
Brand power.
Yep.
And there's a school that I want, but I'm worried I'm getting too far east. I feel like I need to bring in some Steven methodology and stick to the West, because Lord knows now I'm far from the West. So I think I'm going to leave the school that I was going to take alone for now, and I'm going to go back to the West, and I'm going to pick the school that I love to love.
Mm-hmm.
The Utes.
The
Utah Utes. I'm taking them. They have to be in the top half of my draft, for Pete's sake.
Yep.
Of course, I've left Oregon and Washington go too, but I'm taking the Utes next because I love Utah. And that's really the only reason. Nothing else matters to me. I just like the Utes. I think they're in my conference.
Solid pick. I think it makes a lot of sense with, Utah's kind of had a meteoric rise, I think, moving up through conferences.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Now they're in the Big 12 and they could be in that next wave that the Big 10 looks at. Who knows? I don't think they're an immediate target, but they've kind of had that rise. They did real well out there in the pack, and now they're the first year in the Big 12, and they're kind of the favorites to win already. So I was wondering if Utah was going to be in your path as you came over. I was wondering exactly how you were going to do it.
Well, the four corners helped me out.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have, had to have gone that route.
Yeah.
And that too, I would have picked much, much earlier if I had to have. But I let them be for a little while.
Good pick. Doesn't surprise me. So now we're back to Steven in Midwest and Appalachia.
Okay. Well, remember a little while ago when I told you that the three picks between Steve and Bill took out most of my top tier of my draft board?
Yes.
Well, one of those picks happened to be Tennessee.
Mm.
And if you review the Appalachian region, the official Appalachian region, Tennessee is one of those states.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I have to make a play down south, going down to the state of Tennessee, but I can't pick Tennessee because Bill already chose Tennessee. So what am I left with? I still have a couple good options. So I think I'm going to go with this. Staying true to the Appalachian brand. And with the seventh pick, the Appalachian Conference selects the University of Memphis.
Wow. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were going Vandy or Memphis there.
Oh, I would have gone Memphis too. 100%.
Memphis, I think, has as like on par with the TV market with Vanderbilt. So
Yeah. Yeah, both are. I mean, that Memphis, that with the Low Country, Western Tennessee, but also, and the reason I was wondering if you would go Vanderbilt, Nashville. I mean, Nashville, huge growing city, having that in your both are, again, obviously Vanderbilt is not the football power in the SEC,
No.
but I was just curious there. So okay, so we got Memphis. Stephen goes Memphis. Bill, that college football guy, is back on the board. He took Florida last time. Where's he looking now down south?
Well, I went with one rivalry and I realized, you know what? The rivalries do play an important part in this.
Yep.
And I kept thinking about where I could go. There's actually about 3 ways I could go here. But for all the memories that they have provided, and I'm a Tennessee fan, so all the torture that they've given Alabama for the years, I have to pick the Auburn Tigers.
Nice.
The Iron Bowl has been absolutely incredible in years. I mean, last year's one was a great surprise of how well they did, all things considered, until they blew it. But but I still think they're a great brand. They have great value. They're in top 32 in terms of viewership and the Nielsen ratings over this past season. They're consistently usually in that. And I think that for having that rivalry, and this is basically a revamped SEC, since we have a revamped Big Ten, revamped SEC, or a Appalachian Conference, and Steve, well, he has his Big Ten. But JY, I'm wondering what you're going to do with your name of your conference.
Yeah, I got to think about that. The Big Mountain.
Auburn makes a lot of sense. Obviously, they have that Alabama rivalry, but Auburn and Georgia is one of the longest running football rivalries in the South, as well, as people have told me, have made me aware of as we've done our videos.
Yes, it is. It is the longest running rivalry in the SEC. It predates even Auburn, Alabama.
There you go. So, and a lot of people don't know Auburn is, I mean, I think it's 15 miles from the Georgia border or something like that. It's right there. Okay, makes a lot of sense. So we're back to me out east. I went with Clemson last time. My next school, I'm going with Georgia Tech. Gets me down there in that Atlanta market. Obviously they have not had real good football success these last, I don't know, 20 years probably. Back since probably 1990 or 91. I think they shared a national title with Colorado or Washington, somebody out there. But they're in that Atlanta market. It builds a bridge for me down the East Coast. If you have them in a true power conference, the ACC's kind of been limping. They call themselves a power conference, but they've been behind in money and all that. Having them in a true power conference, giving the money, they're never going to compete with Georgia in that state as far as the top dog, so to speak. They're never going to be that, but still, I think they're a good addition to the conference. And then I'm going to sneak down. I'm going to gobble up Miami. Bill left. His leavings that he left for me down there.
Scrappings.
And honestly, again, another former Big East school, so it contribute. I'm a big person on this regionality here. So former Big East school just fits, again, playing Penn State, Notre Dame, Miami, all in the same conference. I like it. good TV markets. And again, Miami hasn't had that football success, but another great TV market, Southern Florida. So back to Bill, that college football guy in the South. What's he going to do next?
Well, I've kind of locked down what I wanted to do, but there is another rivalry that, and they are a somewhat of a newer member of the SEC. They're not referring to the last 20 years being added. So I don't know if you would consider that traditional member or not, but they have had their rivalries. They've had their success in basketball, and they have a tremendous rivalry with LSU. And I'm referring to the Arkansas Razorbacks. They have they're basically the team in the state of Arkansas. And I think they're only getting bigger, especially now that the Walton family is contributing to their NIL. I think that's going to make them even more incredible in the future years.
Yes, Bill, that was the school when I took Utah. I was torn between taking going the Stephen route and really trying to hone in on my Western conference, or do I keep squeezing Bill and keep going east? And Arkansas was the school. I wasn't going to say it until it was picked, but that was the school I was kind of looking at. But I have to solidify my Western prowess.
Yeah. Yeah, and Bill just keeps building. Again, he's got all the classic SEC schools plus Florida State. That's a recipe for success. Okay, so well, and obviously, and Arkansas hasn't always been an SEC school. They were part of that old Southwest Conference. And when everyone else kind of was going up, joining the Big 12, they went over to the SEC around that time. So it fits in good. So now we're back to Steven. Last pick was Memphis. Where are you looking now?
Well, I do have a confession to make at this point. It is still called the Appalachia Conference, but I do have to say this, that I've always wanted to visit this place, me personally, on vacation, purposes. And this is the kind of state that I think the Appalachia Conference would enjoy having. And it's kind of out of left field, but not really. It's staying on the East Coast, of course. So, but it does have some brand power because it is an SEC school, and you can't go wrong with an SEC school. So, with the 8th pick, the Appalachia Conference selects the University of South Carolina Gamecocks.
Ooh, all right.
Steven, I love how you build up your picks because I'm going, oh, he's going to pick this school. And then you take a left turn and you go, haha. But no, I'm actually going to the east and I'm going to pick this school. And you do a great job of building it up because I think so far I'm like, oh, he's going to pick X and he's picked Y. So you've got me on tilt. Thankfully, I'm not challenging any of the geography that he's in.
And if anybody else like Bill is counting, that's now 2 SEC schools that he's picked off. So all right, we're back out west with JY playing tiddlywinks all by himself.
Well, yes, and I can't let these 2 schools go any further down the list. It just isn't fair. I mean, I could do it, but I'm not going to do it. Now, of course, that means I'm moving up the West Coast. I have to take the Ducks. It's a travesty that I'm taking them with my 9th pick, but that's the name of the game. And so I got the Texas, and I got who I wanted in Oklahoma and Texas, and I'm very happy I got Nebraska too. I wanted Nebraska.
Yes.
So I'm gonna again solidify more of this Western Conference, the Big Mountain Conference, and I am taking the Oregon Ducks with my number 9, I guess, pick, or my 8th pick, but 9th overall. And then I'm just gonna keep right on going up the coast, and I'm gonna take the Huskies. And that's a place I want to visit because that stadium right there by the water looks fantastic.
Yep.
They get crazy up there. At least they did this year when they did the Oregon games. I mean, that just looked like a phenomenal experience. So anyway, I am solidifying my Western Conference with Oregon and Washington.
Yeah, both big brands, modern brands doing well. They did great in their last year in the Pac. They're moving into the Big Ten in real life. So they make great additions to your conference out here. Makes a lot of sense. And I think Washington Husky Stadium, or whatever it's called, it's always rated in the top 5 loudest stadiums, right there with LSU and Beaver Stadium, Penn State, and some other ones. So
yeah, they crank it out there.
Yeah, it gets loud out there.
Yeah.
So, and the view is beautiful, like you mentioned. All right, so back to Steven. He went down, sniped off South Carolina last pick. Where are you going now?
Well, I have bad news for Bill.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to pick off yet another SEC team. And it does make more sense this time around because it does fit in with the Appalachian region. It just like right towards the border of the Appalachian region. So with the 9th pick, the Appalachian Conference selects the University of Arkansas.
Oh, we already had that one
Did we?
picked. Last
Did we?
round,
Oh, yeah.
right before your pick of South Carolina, Bill took Arkansas.
Oh, I apologize, Bill.
No problem. We
Okay.
already had Jason trying to skip you. Now you're the first one to pick
Okay.
someone that's already taken. I mean, those are the normal. That happens.
I would blame
Yeah.
me too.
Okay. Okay. That's good. But yeah. Okay. Now the pick is in.
Okay.
This would be a better pick. And it was not originally on my draft board, but it makes a lot of sense now because with the University of North Carolina already taken off the board, why not get this other team? I think NC State.
Okay.
Would North Carolina State work? Yep.
Yep. Yeah, good pick there. Getting into the Carolinas there, you're already in South Carolina, NC State, which I think is actually the largest. UNC is the most prestige, but I'm pretty sure NC State is actually larger university. So big alumni base, and they have a lot of power in that state, as we've kind of seen work out with the political atmosphere. So, all right, so we're back in the South with Bill. Bill's kind of getting hemmed in here. You got, I've been coming down the one side. JY came over from the west. Steven's coming down the mountain.
This is when the fun starts.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already kind of started for Bill. But for the rest of us, this is when the fun starts.
Yeah. Okay, what you got, Bill? What do you got for us?
Well, I knew this was going to be a battle from the beginning. That's why I kind of figured, okay, who's going to come for me first? And it was everybody, which is no surprise. But I have a couple ways I could go here.
Yeah.
And I thought about maybe messing with JY a little bit, but no, I'm not going to do that because because I want to get as many top, as crazy as this sounds. I looked this up and I was like, that's not possible. They cannot have been a top 32 Nielsen media market this past season, but yet they were, which surprised me. And referring to, since we're going to continue the raid on North Carolina State schools, I'm going to take the Duke Blue Devils as a little bit of a surprise. Duke finished top in the top 32 media markets. They have new head coach, former Penn State defensive coordinator Manny Diaz now, and Mike Elko is now Texas A&M's coach. But they have their value. They're actually growing and have been doing well. I'm hopeful that Coach Diaz, who did a great job at Miami before he was ceremoniously shown the door, but he has a great potential to be a great coach, provided he's given time. And I think Duke has a history, David Cutcliffe being the biggest example, of giving coaches time to develop. And with time, with how he does things, I think Duke's going to be a great program. I don't even have to bring up Duke basketball because that would be added to Alabama, LSU, Tennessee, and other basketball programs. So that helps out in that market. So I'm taking the Duke Blue Devils.
Yeah, I like it. Makes a lot of sense. I was really wondering between Vandy and Duke. I was wondering if either would get picked and who would be the first out of those two. So I like it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay, so all right, so we're moving back east.
I like it because he stayed to the east.
Yeah. So we're moving back east here. I finally I completed my Atlantic coast invasion down the coast. My last 4 picks being UNC, Clemson, Georgia Tech, and Miami. So I'm gonna start moving maybe over into the Midwest. Steven has left me a couple things I might be able to pick off here. So first one, I want to get into the state of Michigan. He already got Big Blue, but I'm going with Michigan State. I think they're a great pairing with Penn State. Great pairing with Notre Dame. I believe I can look this up and check again, but I think when I looked this up before, that the most Notre Dame, the most games against a Big Ten opponent is Michigan State. I found that to be interesting when I saw that. So I'm going with Michigan State here. Again, I think it's a good pairing with Notre Dame, good pairing with Penn State. Obviously, you got the Land Grant Trophy. Have you guys ever seen the Land Grant Trophy? The most beautiful trophy in all of sports. It looks like a seventh grader made it in their woodshop class.
You sent me a picture of it.
Yes,
I'm like,
beautiful.
that can't be real.
Yeah, the picture even had like lasers in the background, you know. So I'm going Michigan State here, and then I also want to maybe open up some other avenues. I've really kind of done what I wanted to do out east. We're getting down into those last picks. I want to open up some other avenues. It is Central Time Zone. I've been mostly staying in the Eastern Time Zone. I'm not sure if I have a Central Time Zone school yet. Notre Dame's on. Indiana's weird. Like some towns just decide if they're in the Eastern or in the Central Time Zone, whatever they want to do. So I'm going with my next pick, and I don't think they've been taken. Illinois, the Fighting Illini.
They have not been taken. I'm a bit surprised.
Yeah, gets me over it again. It's a bridge, gets me over into some of that Big Ten territory, gets me in the Chicago media market. I could have went Northwestern, but I'm not sure about Northwestern moving forward. So Illinois, I'm gonna go with that. So now we're back to Bill in the South. He took Duke last time. He got it in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Top 32 media market. Where are you going now, Bill?
Well, we're gonna go with I waited for JY long enough. Now I'm kind of have a little fun. He took Big Brother, and justifiably so, but they have been a great team and have been very successful in the past few years. And I looked at the value of the market. They have the value there. They obviously are the little brother, but they have been continuously winning. They continuously do great things there. And with all of the, I've gotten pretty much most of what I wanted to get done, but I need to expand out a little bit. So since they're touching Arkansas, I'm going to take the Cowboys from Oklahoma State.
Yep, good pick.
I think that they have a lot of value and hopefully
Really
some
good pick.
potential.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with Steven and JY. Really good pick. And honestly, in real life, I've wondered, with Oklahoma and Texas moving over to the SEC, I get it. They're the bigger brands. They're Big Brother, like you mentioned. But boy, I bet it'd be a lot of fun to see Oklahoma State, to see the Cowboys playing in the SEC. That's basically what you're building here. I think that'd be a lot of fun for some good football.
That's a great pick because I would have taken it.
Yeah.
Or taken them.
There you go.
That was the time to take it.
So we're back to Steven. Last he went over, he picked up the Carolinas with South Carolina and NC State. Where are you headed next, Steven?
Well, I'm looking at, for this next pick, I'm going to look at just TV market, not necessarily on-field football success, although if you look way back in the past, this school has had a little bit of success. And if I can drop a little hint here, most notably, back in the early 2000s, they had a quarterback by the name of Donovan McNabb. So with the next pick, which would be my 10th pick, the Appalachian Conference selects the University of Syracuse.
Awesome. Another school I had my eye on to pair with some of those older Big East rivals, but it's a good pairing with you. You got Buffalo, you got Pitt, you got Louisville, you got West Virginia. I think Syracuse makes a good combo with those.
Yeah.
So now we're back out in the West. JY out there. He finally finished his West Coast.
No, I got one I got to take.
Okay.
I mean, you're right. I did finish going up the West Coast.
Yeah.
But I've got to take the back door to USC. Again, a school I just can't let drop any longer than this. Massive history. UCLA, get on the daggone bus and join the Big Mountain Conference.
Makes a lot of sense.
And then my pick would have been Oklahoma State. But I can't take Oklahoma State because they have been taken. And that's fine. And I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to solidify the Texas markets and maybe make things a little more difficult for Bill. And I'm going to take a school that you have taken a liking to here of recent.
Yep.
And, maybe we'll see how they end up. But I'm very happy to have my third Texas school with TCU.
Yeah, I was really wondering if Bill was going to go over and grab those just to get a little bite of Texas, getting that Dallas Fort Worth market. Generally, I always think that the big public schools have the most value,
Yes.
large alumni bases. TCU, they've had a lot of success on the field, and again, that connection to the Dallas Fort Worth market is
Massive
huge,
market. Massive.
massive.
Yep.
So it makes a lot of sense. All right, so we're right back to you, Stephen. Last time you went Syracuse, where are you headed now?
Well, I'm pretty sure this school has not been picked. I'm hoping I've been paying attention because all these picks going on very fast. I'm going to stay out east, of course, and it's in a big TV market, and I don't think it's been called. So correct me if I'm wrong. How does the University of Rutgers sounds?
Yeah, they're available for sure.
Then that would be our pick, Rutgers Scarlet Knights.
All right. Yeah, huge market. Kind of, I mean, they're in New Jersey, but they're really kind of that connector point between the Philadelphia and New York City markets.
New York, yeah.
Again, that was a big reason why the Big Ten didn't add them for on-field success. It was all about team market of that Philly and New York City, huge market. So it gives you a lot of media value. I mean, you were already up in Syracuse, and this gives you more of that 95 corridor. So it makes a lot of sense. So, and then we're back to Bill. He went with OK State, Oklahoma State last with the Cowboys. Where are you headed now, Bill?
Well, JY is hitting home runs because I was hoping he'd skip TCU and skip that Dallas market, but that was a very smart move. But I'm in Oklahoma. I have to get one in Texas, and there's one left. It's been, oh my goodness. It has been a while since when we had the days when TCU and Texas Tech, who's going to be my pick, were all battling to be the number one team in the country. We had some incredible 60 to 56 ball games where you couldn't take a breath for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
It was just crazy. And with them being out there and having their value, Joey McGuire, who, well, we'll see if perhaps this was too big a leap for him to take, but hopefully Texas Tech can develop into something. I'm really thinking they actually have a chance to do something good this year, but we'll do that later on.
Right.
Gives you a little taste of that Texas market. You know, you're already in a lot of this, you have a lot of the big Southern schools, but JY, he kind of pillaged the state, but at least gives you a little taste there. All right. So we're back over to me in the East. I like I said, I went down, did my Atlantic Coast invasion with mixed results. Now I'm kind of starting to head west. So last time I took Illinois, kind of give me some different options there. Illinois, St. Louis is the gateway. St. Louis is, in the connection in between Illinois and Missouri. They say they're the gateway to the West or whatever. So it gives me a lot of options there. But I'm going to actually go north and northwest, and I'm going to take Wisconsin and Iowa, two iconic Big Ten brands.
Great picks.
Thank you. Wisconsin and Iowa. I mean, again, just historic brands, historic Big Ten brands, and I compare them with my Eastern Conference out here. I had to go in that direction.
I thought for sure you were going to go Wisconsin before you went Illinois.
Well,
did you forget about the peninsula?
Oh yeah, the connector up there. I kind of did actually forget about that. Good call. That's okay. Which I've been up there before, but I honestly wanted to get into Illinois. I wanted to get into that Chicago market, so I was really debating there, Northwestern and Illinois. So I got Illinois, Wisconsin, and Iowa. Okay. I'm in Big Ten country.
Yes, you
pretty solid here. So we're back to Bill in the South. He got a little taste of Texas. Got Texas Tech. Where are you headed now?
Well, I was looking, going like. And I checked everybody's list. It's kind of surprising this hasn't been taken because it's in smack dab in the middle of the country. They have been, as of late, have been a football power in the recent years. But they were actually Stephen's number one pick. West Virginia was actually the one of the top 2 candidates to get into the SEC back in 2012. They didn't get in, but the Tigers from Missouri did get in. They own the state of Missouri. There's very little else you can do in that state, but I think the Missouri Tigers would be a very solid pick in this situation.
Agree. That's a great pick.
All right, so back to Steven then. Where are we headed? Where are you headed, Steven?
Okay. I have a few interesting picks here. Um, and not all because that they've been all that successful on the field, but there are certain parts of the geographic footprint that I want to get into, and particularly in the state of Virginia. Now, Virginia Tech was already taken, and obviously you have other Virginia schools that are, yeah, worth talking about. And I think this school is still going to raise some eyebrows in the near future with their on-field success lately. Even though they've had like an easy go out of it with their schedules, but I feel confident that they're going to be in it for the long haul. So with the 12th pick, the Appalachia Conference selects the University of Liberty, the Flames.
Wow.
I love a couple G5ers here.
Yeah, first are we at our first? Is it no? I think we made
Buffalo.
Oh yeah, Buffalo and Memphis. Okay, all right.
Yeah, Memphis.
Yeah. So I mean, it definitely fits with your where their location is in Virginia. Kind of fits with your Appalachian theme, and they're definitely up and coming. They got a lot of excitement around them, a lot of investment. They're making the headlines. A couple years back, you and I made some decent money betting on Liberty. So makes sense there. All right, we're back west with JY. He dipped back again into Texas with TCU last time. He finally solidified LA with UCLA. What are you doing now?
Well, people, I find this school to be polarizing in several ways, but it's definitely a market that I need, being in the West Coast. So I must take Stanford.
Okay. Makes sense.
So I'll add them to my list. And I'll tell you, we only have 3 teams left, Steve. That's all we got left.
Yeah.
3 teams per
Yep.
conference.
Yep.
And there's going to be some people left out of the West that are going to, I'm going to get some hate mail. Because I went hard, Texas. I went hard, and there's going to be people out here that are not real happy with me, but that's okay. And now I'm struggling to say, do I go west, or do I take a school that I had for a while that I haven't gotten? And I think I am, because you love the state of New Mexico. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not taking New Mexico. I'm taking. I had to say that. I am taking Kansas State.
Kansas State. Okay.
Great pick.
I've been wondering about those Kansas schools, Kansas and Kansas State. I kind of got a little blocked, but I was wondering kind of who would go to those, because they're not maybe the top tier, but they really fill out a conference well, and they fit into any of those. They fit in the Midwest, they fit in the West. You could even make a case for combining them with the South if you have, Missouri and Arkansas and Oklahoma.
Well, my conference is going to have 2 divisions. Clearly, I'm going to have the Western Division and the Central Division.
Yeah.
Because I got plenty of Central schools here, but they're sitting there, and I just got to take them. I can't let them float if they're available. So I took them.
Makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we're back with Steven. He took Liberty. Where are you going next?
Well, as far as I know, because with all these picks going, since there's like very few schools to pick at this point, you might as well do it. And we're strictly looking at TV market here, not because of their on-field success, but there again, they are an SEC school, so it would warrant the look. So I would have to pick for the next pick. Why not Vanderbilt?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that pick makes a lot of sense. Like you said, they're the funny thing is, so you guys know I'm a Penn State fan. James Franklin was there. I did this whole thing, and in 100 years, I think they've had 5 seasons of 9 wins or more, or 3 seasons, and 2 out of those 3 came under James Franklin. Other than that period where he was there, they've been mostly inept on the field. They did have, what was his, that really good quarterback that ended up going and playing for the Bears. I can't
Jay
remember.
Cutler.
Jay Cutler,
Jay
yeah.
Cutler.
That was it.
That
Yeah,
was
he
his
was,
name. Yep.
yeah, really good. But that's probably the best player they've ever had. But they've had limited success on the field. But like you said, TV market and just a place that's great for your conference, Nashville.
Nashville.
Everybody loves to go to Nashville. So I think a great place to have your conference media days and all, meetings and all that kind of stuff. Great place to visit. So it makes a lot of sense. Good TV market. So Steven went with Vandy. Now we're back to Bill, that college football guy in the South. He got Missouri here, which I was surprised Missouri went that long. I'm really interested to see where you go next because there is just still a few Texas schools if you wanted to add. You know, you're kind of getting boxed in here. I'm really interested to see where you're going to go next.
Well, I've been boxed in for a while, but I love the Vanderbilt pick because of having the, as you brought up James Franklin, I think what he did in the time of his Vanderbilt, when he was the head coach of Vanderbilt, considering the talent they had, was perhaps the best coaching job I've seen in the last 25 years, all things considered with all of the talent. But mindless to say here, Missouri needs a running partner. And because we're Texas Tech and Oklahoma State. And since JY went with the one I went, but actually it was kind of a toss up. He took Kansas State, which has a phenomenal football program. But I'm going with the other school from Kansas. I'm going with the University of Kansas, the Jayhawks, who are getting better. Lance Leipold, if he stays, Kansas could be a problem for a lot of people in college football for the next 10 to 15 years.
I agree.
As his family has fallen in love with Lawrence. I think he could have some great success there. They seem to be behind him. Well, hold on. If they can get the funding and everything going forward, that new proposed stadium looks to be fantastic. And with the success plus Kansas basketball coming in, I think that I'm the Kansas Jayhawks. I'm very happy with that pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Okay. So we're back east. I'm limited options here. I can, I was going down the coast. I invaded Big Ten territory here. I don't know if there's much left out there on the carcass of the Big Ten. There's some schools left, but maybe I don't want. I decided Bill he kind of stuck it to me down in the state of Florida down there earlier. By getting both Florida and FSU, I really thought would have been able to get one of those. So I got Miami that fit in there well. I have to go UCF, University of Central Florida. They got that invite to the Big 12. They don't have the history and the tradition of a lot of these programs, but if you look over the next 20 to 30 years, they could become a football power. Obviously, they're in a great location. They're kind of a weird like commuter school type thing, but they have a large alumni base. Huge school down there. I think it just adds to my, I got Miami in there, add to my Florida market. So I'm going to go there. And then I'll tell you, I'm really torn after that. And I think I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go ahead and grab Minnesota. Don't really even want them that much. I figured I would have been able to grab Rutgers here or Syracuse, but again, Steven kind of stuck it in me a couple times right in the back. Knifed me, so I don't have those available. So I'm going Minnesota, kind of holding my nose, and we're back to Bill in the South.
Oh boy, a couple ways to go here. I'm looking at all this. We are getting down to the nitty gritty, and
yeah,
it's going to be an interesting one here. But I've thought that this school, since we're going to go one way with this, why not continue on the mentality? I picked Duke, a basketball school. I picked Kansas, a basketball school. There's been much rumor, speculation, innuendo, whatever terminology you want to use about having this school joining the SEC. But I'm going to do it for this. I'm going to add Virginia, which I believe has not been picked.
No, they
have
Virginia. Nope.
I will pick Virginia on this, so that have add their basketball to it. Maybe one day they can. They're getting some more money involved into football. They can develop that because If they do, they're going to be an incredible university. But I think Virginia is the way to go right now.
Yeah, really good pick, and I really considered them. I already had Virginia Tech, so it's the only reason I didn't take them. But I think it's a lot of good value there. We're in our last couple picks here. Fits in your geography, fits in your footprint. Yeah, I like the pick. So back to Steven. Last, you went Vanderbilt in Nashville last time. What do you got now?
Yep. So in total, from what I got here, I picked 13 schools to go with Ohio State. That means I got 14.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Yep. So you
Okay.
have two more picks left. This pick and then next time around.
Okay. Well, I might as well go ahead with this because it does fit with the regionality of the conference, the Appalachian Conference, and it makes so much sense because way back in history, West Virginia Mountaineers and schools like that, they've played games against this school in particular, and I do think it would spruce up the flair of rivalries within this conference. So with the 14th pick, the Appalachian Conference selects the University of Marshall.
Mm.
And a fun fact about that is some years ago, I actually visited the Marshall University campus.
Awesome. Yeah. Like you said, a lot of traditional rivalry. They kind of, for whatever reason, they kind of got left behind a little bit, but a lot of traditional rivalries with West Virginia and a lot of those schools in that footprint. So it makes perfect sense with fits with your conference there. So we're back west. JY is going to make his final two picks.
Oh, this is tough. My first one's not tough. My last one is tough because there's a lot of schools that I could pick. But my first one, pick 15 of 16, I've got to take Brigham Young University, BYU, or some would say BYU.
Yep.
But I have Utah, so I've got to bring in BYU. So that one's pretty easy for me. And now there's maybe two or three schools that really probably deserve to be in my Western Conference that aren't, because I went Texas heavy. And so I apologize for some of the Western schools not going to be in. So I'll tell you the schools where I'm thinking. And the schools that I'm thinking are Wazoo. And then I got to go G5 because I have to pick a G5 school. So I'm actually not thinking Wazoo because I have to pick a G5 school, to pick a Mountain West school. So I'm thinking Boise State, UNLV, or San Diego State. Now I will tell you, San Diego State is just too close to LA. To me, it's not a different market. You don't
redundancy.
Yeah, you don't need them down there. And for me, for my Big Mountain Conference.
Yep.
So then that leaves me with UNLV and Boise State. Now, of course, Boise State's got the national attention. They got the wonderful blue turf, which, okay, they're more than just blue turf, but they've got that national recognition. They're the only thing up in that area, obviously, in Boise for FBS. But UNLV is very interesting because, I mean, who doesn't want the LA or the Las Vegas market? It's growing. I do think UNLV is, their name recognition is growing. Their university is growing. So I'm kind of torn between, like, if you want to call it traditional, which would be more Boise State, or maybe what can UNLV be in the future? And that would be pure media play.
Brand versus market there.
Boise State, brand versus market.
UNLV,
that's what it is. Brand versus market. But we talked about market. So I'm going to go UNLV. I'm taking Vegas into the Western Conference.
I have to say, I'm a little surprised. I really thought I thought Boise was going to be your last pick.
I know you did.
Yeah.
I thought it was too, but then I went, no, I want Las Vegas.
Yeah. He tried to zig when I thought he was going to zig.
Yeah, I pulled a fast one on you. I probably should have picked Boise. So all the Boise people can tell me I screwed that one up. But anyway, I take UNLV.
All right. So back to Steven in the Midwest, or Appalachia. Started in the Midwest and really solidified that Appalachia region. So last you went Vandy Marshall. Who you got for your very last pick?
I am pretty sure I know this last school. I do not recall them being picked at all by anybody here. It is a Big Ten school, and I think they do fit the geographic footprint. Are the Indiana Hoosiers available?
Yes, they are.
Yep.
Then with the 15th and final pick, the Appalachia Conference selects University of Indiana Hoosiers.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I was going to take them earlier. If I didn't get Notre Dame, I would have taken Indiana as a bridge over there. But since I got Notre Dame, I figured out, Indiana is not a huge state. I just keep that. But I think it makes a lot of sense. And it's a good bridge because, you started in the Midwest, but you really got your identity in the Appalachia region. So, and Indiana is a great bridge between those two areas. The southern part of the state looks a heck of a lot like Kentucky. And the northern part of the state looks like all the rest of the Midwest, flat and corn. So makes a lot of sense. Good way to finish. And now we're back to Bill, that college football guy in the South. He picked up Kansas, Missouri, Kansas, and Virginia. Three, I think pretty good, strong closers. We've been saying, oh, poor Bill, he's all boxed in. Well, he's got all the traditional SEC powers. He's got Florida State. He's got Duke, another great brand power. He dipped into the state of Texas, and then his poor little me schools have been Missouri, Kansas, and Virginia. So
nothing wrong with them.
No, let's see how he closes it out.
Well, I'm closing up, but one thing for JY, to give a reminder, since the Pac-2 is no longer an autonomous conference, they're part of the G6. So technically could have picked Oregon State or Washington State.
That's true.
But as a former 40-year resident living in Las Vegas, your pick did bring a big smile to my face because I think that UNLV has potential. And if you're being realistic about it, if there is any school in the G5, G6 now that NIL could positively affect, it's UNLV. If the casinos or the UFC or anybody else gets behind it, and we were seeing that now with the talent they're bringing in.
For sure.
But for my final pick, I kind of hemmed them in on purpose to save them for last. So I brought my earlier pick. I brought their other brother in earlier, but in the traditional SEC rivalry, they have been a school that have been fun to watch. They've had their ups, they've had their downs, but I've got to pick Mississippi State to partner with Ole Miss. And for those, remember the late Mike Leach. If you want a good laugh, look up Mike Leach sayings on YouTube. The man was a guaranteed soundbite, one of the most entertaining coaches, and some of his press conferences when he gets mad are absolutely legendary. Yeah. But please check him out. And also, for a note for the record, they need to seriously change that rule about the qualifications for the College Football Hall of Fame. Yeah. One win off, and there's multiple coaches now who are one win off. So I'm thinking it's either that or I'm just thinking the fact of how many do a limit requirement, which isn't maybe I don't think is in there as much as conference championships or conference championship game appearances or other things like that. Because this is silly because so many coaches are getting penalized for it.
Yeah. Completely agree.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys caught the end of I think it was our last live episode when we went out. We went out in tribute of Mike Leach. We went out as pirates and we went out R. It was great. Yeah. So we both love Mike Leach. And honestly, that guy, he went around the country and he took hard jobs. He didn't go get cushy jobs that were easy to win. You go Washington State, Texas Tech, Mississippi State. Those aren't places that are easy to win. So and that's the thing to me that they shouldn't even have a rule about winning percentage because it's stupid. Because comparing, it's such an arbitrary thing. They're trying to have a numerical standard, but it's really so arbitrary because some coaches have had a completely different path than others. As far as getting wins and the winning percentage. So I love the pick. I'm gonna make my last pick. Before I do want to say after I make my last pick, I'm gonna ask everybody, starting with JY, and we'll go back across, just to do a kind of a what do you like about your conference? What went wrong? What do you don't like about it? Make your sales pitch to our media rep at the end. So we'll start with after I make my last pick, we'll start with JY, then Steven, then Bill, and then myself. So I'm making my last pick, and I was really torn. There's some kind of leftover Big Ten programs that I looked at, that I just kind of considered, and I looked at Purdue. I was considering Indiana, looked at Iowa State, out there in the Midwest, just kind of looked at some things. I also kind of considered Temple, But with Penn State, you already have the Philly market. So this one, I don't know if this is going to sound a little bit out of left field. It's a school that JY and I were just talking about in our College Football 2030 project as a great target for the ACC. And again, I kind of got leveraged out of the traditional powers in Florida, but I took Miami, I took UCF, and I'm going to finish strong, looking for the future, making a bet on the future with USF to kind of just solidify myself in the state of Florida a little bit, even without having those top two powers, obviously. But I think between those three schools, looking in the future, I think that gives me a good foothold down there.
I knew that's who you were
okay. All right.
Yeah.
I love that pick, and South Florida is going to get better because those who've known about here, Tennessee's former offensive coordinator is now South Florida's head coach. He's been with Josh Heupel since the UCF days, and the reason their offense exploded at South Florida from one win to a bowl game, and they're only going to continue to get better with that market. It's a phenomenal. Plus, not to the fact they won the American in basketball last year, so they're even on that aspect. So it's a phenomenal pick.
And they're willing to invest. I mean, I think they're either building a brand new stadium or renovated stadium. They're willing to invest in the program. When you're in that market and you're willing to invest, that's a great combination. So that's the last pick. I like it. There was a lot of twists and turns, some things I didn't expect, but some of the things went exactly like I thought. So let's do a recap. Each person talk about, again, what they like about their conference, what they maybe missed out on, they wish they hadn't, and do a little sales pitch. Let's start with JY out west.
Sales pitch.
Okay.
I have phenomenal market value.
All right.
My media value is amazing.
You have the LA market, you have the Texas market.
Are you going to pitch for me?
No, you're just saying you have great markets.
I do have great markets.
Yep.
But by having great markets, you asked about maybe the negative.
Yeah.
I maybe gave up on because before we started this, we were having some conversation, and I said it's all about winning. And you said, we don't have to be about winning. And I said, no, it's about winning.
Right.
And so I went hard into the winning, which is why I have a bunch of Texas and Central schools. And now I look and I think, I think I let down my Western powers, some of them, because I don't have enough Western schools. But it's all about winning, and I have more market value, so I'm very happy with my market value. So it just, it goes, which way did you want to go? Did you want to go, I would say Steven did an excellent job he was kind of not the JY. He was anti-JY. And he made the very good Appalachian Conference, and he was very rational about why he was picking them and sticking to that footprint.
Stuck to regionality a lot.
To the regionality, which was fantastic. And I said, screw it.
Yeah.
I'm going for as many markets as I can get.
Yeah, which you won that race to Texas. You don't have the regionality, I think, that the other three conferences might.
Well, when some of my states they only have one school in them, and then you guys, you look at Florida, and we picked 5.
Yes.
Was it 5? We picked 5 schools out of Florida. It's a little different. There was good and bad, and I knew coming in, and Bill kind of said, nobody's going to come and challenge me on the West Coast.
Steven said you were in store for a good day.
Steven, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because he could have squeezed me a little bit. I got my Nebraska pick, which I didn't really think I was going to. And then I got most of my Texas picks. So anyway, I could go on and on. Well, but that's my pro and con.
And I was going to say, I like to tie this into like what has happened with conferences in real life over time, and like woulda, coulda, shoulda. For the Pac, for a long time, they were trying to do exactly what you did. Was that they had, I think, an offer on the table to get Texas, Oklahoma State. There was 4 schools that was basically centered around Texas and Oklahoma. They were trying to get those out to the Pac, and if that would have happened, the Pac would still be solid today. If they would have gotten Texas and Oklahoma, that's ended up being what you did. So let's move over to Bill here. He really he took the regionality. He got good markets, good brands, and regionality. So Bill, what do you think? Give us your rundown. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, I skipped Steven now. I just
thought you were throwing a curveball.
No, let's go to Steven next. Steven, you started in Ohio, state of Ohio, kind of a Midwest, but you right away, you turned this into the Appalachian Conference. So tell us what went right, what do you wish would have went different, and make your sales pitch to the media guy.
Okay, so what I believe went right was the fact that I stuck to regionality. I stuck to the geographic footprint of the conference. First things first, when you're trying to start a conference, you need to know what you're about. You need to know, what your identity is, what your foundation's going to be. And I kind of had an idea right away what I wanted to do exactly. So when I made picks like West Virginia and Louisville and Kentucky, for example, and even Pittsburgh, I knew right there that was like the general area that I wanted to work around. And when I added schools like Buffalo and Syracuse, that was just icing on the cake, basically, because I was like, once I got that, I can just work my way through that. But yeah, the Appalachia Conference is just really, it's solid. It's a foundation. It's a conference that no the MAC is. And what I could have done better was probably brand power, to be honest with you. Even though I did get good TV markets like Nashville and Memphis and even the New York area, I could have tried to go after the Florida schools. I could have tried to go after certain other media markets, but that's the risk you got to take. But anyway, the sales pitch would be basically, yeah, you know what you're getting in the Appalachia Conference. You're getting good rivalries. You're getting good history. You're getting well-coached teams. You're getting just good universities. Yeah, a strong identity.
Nice.
Awesome. And I would say, Steve, I like the fact that you kind of stuck to an identity, which is interesting. Opposite probably of what JY did.
I don't know what my identity is.
He went for all the big markets out west, which is cool. And Steven kind of did the opposite, going really sticking to an identity, a regionality, which is something I was hoping we'd see at least one conference like that. So kudos to you. And then moving on, now we'll go to Bill. He's in the South. He started in the South, trying to rebuild the SEC basically, but maybe with a little bit of extra flavor to it. So what went right? What went wrong? And Bill, make your pitch to the media guys.
Well, what went right? I was able to get most of, if not all, the traditional rivalries of the SEC, to get that core value together, to get those rivalry games that people look forward to watch on Saturdays. I was able to get Kansas and Missouri. Was actually surprising for me because I thought JY was going to snatch them up, or someone was going to, because of that. There's a little bit of history there. But I think I got a lot of traditional rivalries. I got a lot of what I wanted to get. What went wrong? JY's pillaging of Texas is what I thought. I thought maybe I can get two. No, I got one. But he did it. That was on there. But I had a feeling is that if the four corners is allowed, I'm done. And he got me. But yeah, but I believe that's losing Texas, but there's a lot more in college football than the state of Texas.
Yeah.
There are some great schools all over this country and a lot of fan bases that are very, very passionate. So I'm very, very, very happy with my conference. The traditional rivalries, the base geographic footprint, primarily in the South, but a little bit in the Midwest, a little bit up the 95. But all in all, I believe it's a very solid conference.
Yeah, you did a great. I mean, on the field, like especially the on the field success and the current brands, you got a strong conference. You with the position you were in, my read on it was you could either go over and solidify Florida or race over to Texas. You kind of at the beginning maybe we're doing a little head fake either way, but you decided on solidifying Florida and that's what I mean. You're right in the middle between those states. It would have been, you would have really had to thread the needle to basically get one of those major schools in Florida and Texas. It would have been difficult. You decided on Florida. It makes a lot of sense. And you got a good conference here. I'll go over mine real quick. I got some of the historic brands with Penn State and Notre Dame. A lot of historic rivalries, some of those, the regionality of the East. With a little bit of the mix in of some traditional Big Ten powers. I didn't get the top two Big Ten powers with Steven keeping Ohio State and Michigan, but I got some of the other just kind of traditional powers. So I look at my conference ended up being kind of a mixture with Penn State being that linchpin, which I kind of thought of the Big East, the traditional old Big East, with some, bringing in some powers from the Big Ten. I'm in those I-95 corridor markets in those states, but I don't have the on-field brand power, the on-field success and current brand power, definitely, of some of the other, some of you guys definitely. On-field success, I think Bill is the strongest for sure, which makes sense because the SEC is just generally the strongest football conference. So I'm pretty far behind in that, but I think I accomplished what I wanted to do. Again, that linchpin between the Midwest, big Midwest markets, big Eastern markets, some traditional rivalry. So I was happy with that. And again, I appreciate you guys doing this. I think it was a fun exercise. We each conference got to see some of, I think, some of our own personality mixed in, but also within the, we showed here you can create 4 solid conferences. Bringing in some G5, maybe you'll do a count on how many G5
I
teams.
think we have 4.
Okay.
I think Steven has 3 and I have 1, I believe, because I don't think you and Bill have any. Am I right?
No.
I think
Oh, yeah, he does. He does.
Live
He has-
USF.
he has-
Oh, you have yours. Okay, so it's 5.
Yeah. So that was one thing I was really interested to see was would we elevate some G5 teams over some of those bottom of the barrel, and you can see I left out some Big Ten teams. So I was happy to see that. So you see we can do that. We can build a modern conference or a league of conferences that elevate some of those G5 teams, which I'm really excited about it. You guys have any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'll let it to our guests, and then we'll get to the media guy.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. Speaking of those G5 teams, I went over my list and looks like I chose 4 G5 schools out of all the
Oh,
picks
is it
I
4?
made.
Okay.
Yeah, Buffalo, Marshall, Memphis, and Liberty.
Yep.
So we
Those
got
are the
6.
ones.
Yep.
So yeah, there are some G5 schools that are really worth that look.
What
Yeah.
are
Also, I'd make this one note. When I was picking Syracuse, I kind of misspoke a little bit. Donovan McNabb, he was selected in the 1999 NFL draft, and I said early 2000. So I'm like, I kind of messed up there. So yeah.
And that Syracuse team, if I remember, was McNabb and Marvin Harrison. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
They were playing that Carrier Dome. They were just beasts. They were the beasts of the East at that time.
Yep. There was a time that Syracuse was good at football. Yeah.
For sure. Bill, do you have some final thoughts before JY throws
Actually,
it?
well, yeah, I do have some thoughts because the fact was I was going to pick a G5 if Virginia was off the board. Since I've driven by them so many times, James Madison, who's had a phenomenal facility. They have a 27,000 seat arena, which based upon the blueprint, which a lot of people don't know, if they get the funding, there's an expanded blueprint to bring it up to 52,000 people if needed for a potential invite into another conference.
Wow.
ACC maybe, but that is being considered. But yeah, they were actually, I was going to grab a G5 if somehow Virginia was gone. I was going to grab James Madison. I wanted a school in Virginia for this conference.
Yeah,
there were James Madison and Appy State were 2 that I considered, and I wondered if anybody would grab them, if they wanted to get into Virginia and get into Orange, North Carolina. James Madison, it's amazing the meteoric rise that they've had, where they're being considered for another promotion. They just got up to where they are now, and they're already kind of on that notice. So, any other last thoughts, Bill?
No, the same like James. Appalachian State is also the giant killers for all the things that they've done. They're a possibility. James Madison on it. There's a lot of great teams. I mean, I was at one point in time, if it was going to be a challenge for in the future, was what if you did the same thing maybe with 12 teams and it's all G5? You cannot pick a power school.
Yeah.
That might be a little bit more of a challenge to do, but that'd be something for another day.
I love it. I love it. My wheels are already turning.
Well,
There's
thank you.
So many possibilities.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. It's fun stuff. Thank you both for sticking out with us, doing this. We'll get the we've been putting some of the maps and stuff up as we've been doing this. We'll put one up here, and we're going to hear from our media guy who he thinks has the best conference. I don't know. We got some good conferences here. I'm not sure where I'm at with it right now. So
I'm really interested to see how it goes.
Yeah. So thank you two very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And we welcome back to the Big Mountain Kevin Gold with Pillarot out of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. He is going to be the one that gives us his idea of valuations. He's going to rank these guys for us. He's going to say that, I win, because remember, it's important that I win.
He doesn't even know what
He doesn't know. He doesn't know who anybody is. We'll let him know at the end, but he does not know right now. But let's just have real quick, Kevin, just introduce himself here again real quick, and we're going to get right into this.
Sure. So my name is Kevin Gold. I'm an attorney at Pillarot, which is a law firm in Harrisburg. But more importantly for today's discussion, I'm an NFL agent. I've been an NFL agent for about 30 years, representing a number of NFL players and work with college athletes as they aspire to, number one, get NIL deals, and number two, make the NFL. So very familiar with all these programs, the rivalries, the media markets, and thank you for not telling me who's who yet, because I have some clear ideas about who the winner is, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
All right.
So.
It's going to be me. It's okay.
All right. That works.
All
Makes
right,
it
go
easy.
ahead, Steve.
Awesome. So Kevin, again, we appreciate you coming and doing this. This has been a kind of a labor of love for us. It's been a lot of fun, just a great exercise. And again, what we're asking you to do today is just, I'm going to go through conference by conference. You, like we said, you don't know who picked who, and just kind of ask you your thoughts. Give us like a rough valuation on each conference. And then your thoughts. What do you like about this conference? What do you not like about it? We'll go through, and then we'll let you know who picked who, and just kind of do a recap. You ready to go, Kevin?
I'm ready to go. Let's pick a winner.
Okay, so we're gonna start with the West, and I'll just say before you say anything, the West, they started with USC. That was their automatic. They had no choice.
Yep.
So the West, USC, just a historic program. One of the big programs of all time. So give us your thoughts on the West, where you kind of have it placed value wise, and whatever else you got.
Yeah, I honestly have them towards the back of my rankings. And it's because it's the after dark to us East Coast people. So obviously there's some big rivalries in there. With some of the obviously Texas and Oklahoma are in there. You have some of those West Coast teams that people aren't familiar with, right? When was the last time anyone saw UNLV? Now, granted, they're at the end there, but I think the West does have some high value rivalries and obviously some big media markets, but compared to how some of the other conferences came up, I didn't put them near the top, to be honest. And maybe that's my East Coast bias. So.
Well, and that's a big thing in the media is East Coast bias. I do want to mention, the West, like you said, they're very West Coast centered, but they were able to grab the Texas markets. They were able to win the race to Texas. So with Texas and Texas A&M, and they have Oklahoma there, but definitely
Nebraska.
Nebraska in the Midwest. So some historic programs, but like you said, a little more West Coast based. So, do you have any other thoughts you want to give us? Kind of, do you have a rough number you'd put on their valuation?
You mean if I were to rank them among one?
Yeah, 1 to 10. We'll say 1 is the professional bull riding tour, and 10 is the NFL. What rank would you give? What number about? And it might be some conferences might have the same. So 1 to 10, professional bull riding, to 10 the NFL. What number valuation would you give the West Conference here?
I'd probably give them a 6 at this point. Honestly,
okay.
That would be my number for them.
All right. So let's move on. We're going to move in the easterly direction to the Midwest. They started with Ohio State as their historic program. And again, like we mentioned, everything, when we set this whole scenario up, everything had to be contiguous. So you had to go from state to state. So they started with Ohio State. They jumped right into West Virginia. They did grab Michigan, but there's a lot of, this kind of became the Appalachian Conference, a lot of Appalachian Mountains. So I want to know, what'd you like about this conference? What didn't you like, and what valuation number, 1 to 10, are you giving the Midwest?
Just now that I know the scale, I'll start with my scale and then I'll explain.
Okay.
So I had them as a 5, so just below the West. I think they have the advantage of, you have Michigan and Ohio State, so that right off the bat you got that massive rivalry there, that final game of the regular season. You have West Virginia Pitt too, which is probably, again, we're in Pennsylvania. I have fond memories of the backyard brawl going back to when they actually played that game. Not sure it's as regular as it used to be, but you have that now, and that provides a great deal of value, although that might be my East Coast bias coming out a little bit, and then a little sub rivalry, I guess, West Virginia and Marshall down at the bottom. So gives a little more balance, but I had them just below the West, to be honest.
Okay. All right. So far we have the West with a 6, Midwest with a 5. Now we're headed south.
Yeah.
So South started with Alabama as their historical blue blood conference. And he grabbed Georgia, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Florida State. He basically recreated the SEC. With a couple other, he added Duke and a couple other things. So I just want to know, where did you value the South here, and what'd you like and what'd you not like?
I gave them a 9, and obviously I'll tell you nobody gets a 10. So they have my highest grade. To me, they have the highest value in terms of just those high value matchups. I mean, obviously they have, you've got the SEC team, so you have Alabama, LSU, you have Georgia, Tennessee, Auburn, all those things mixed in there. That was whether intentionally or not, it was nice to kind of recreate the SEC because if you ask anyone, any of those members, that's the greatest football conference in the world, always has been, always will. So with those rivalries and those markets, I honestly had them as a 9.
Okay. All right. Now we're heading east, all the way to the east.
Yeah, back home.
Back home. We started with the old classic beast of the East, Penn State. This really ended up kind of interesting. Kind of almost recreated some of the old Big East with some Big Ten flavor to it. This went strange. So we got Penn State, Cincinnati, Notre Dame. You having Penn State and Notre Dame right there. And then kind of marched down the East Coast, got a little bit of that Florida market, and then went over and started grabbing some not West, but some Big Ten teams. Really got into Big Ten country. So what's your valuation on the East, and what do you like, what do you not like?
Yeah, so I had them second overall, so I gave them a 7. So I had the West with a 6, Midwest with a 5, South with a 9, East with a 7. Obviously, the Penn State Notre Dame is huge. I still think of Miami as the old Miami, and maybe someday they actually will be. So I value them there for that market between Notre Dame, Miami, and even Notre Dame, Clemson, having Clemson in there. And maybe some of I have a Big Ten bias a little bit. Both of my sons graduated Wisconsin. So, when you get Wisconsin in there and you get those rivalries that they have, obviously Wisconsin, Minnesota is huge, their battle for the axe. And those were some of the teams drafted at the bottom there. So I think they went a little deeper than some of the other conferences. So that's why I put them at a 7, because of their a little bit of more depth than some of the others. So.
Yeah, honestly, it makes a lot of sense. I figured the South, I don't know about you, JY, but I figured the South was going to be the number one. There's so many big programs. And then with the other two, I figured East and West would be pretty similar. And I kind of thought, with the Midwest, just they really dipped so much into Appalachia, some cool historical but really small market teams, small fan base
stuff.
Teams.
Yep.
Yeah, cool franchise. I mean, cool schools and rivalries and stuff like that. So, are you ready to hear? Do you want to hear who had what, who did what here, Kevin?
I absolutely do. See what I have no preconceived notions of who did what, so you could let me know.
I'll just have to say it's good Kevin's not in the room with us.
Yeah, JY's a little salty right now. So here's the deal. JY, the West was JY. He started way out in with USC, and there were advantages and disadvantages. Yeah. I mean, he had west of the Mississippi kind of to himself. Right. He was able to win that race to Texas. Like, that was huge. Really wondered
that was
who
a battle.
Yeah, it was a battle. And
this was a snake draft, correct? So
snake draft, yes.
Yeah.
And it actually wasn't a battle. I was expecting it to be a battle.
It would be, yeah.
And the both the Midwest and really the South guy, I really thought I'd probably have to really fight for the South with the South commissioner to get into Texas. He actually just kind of was like, he threw up the flag. He's like, I don't need it. I can build basically
the old SEC.
I can get a 9 without it, so I'm not going to mess with it. And clearly it worked out for him. I don't mean to jump to another coverage, but I was expecting a battle, and literally round 1, both the Midwest and the South commissioner said, JY, you're going to have a good night. I went, great. I guess that means I'm going to get Texas. And I did. And then I had to kind of stop getting Texas because I could have had everybody in Texas if I wanted.
Yeah, but
just round up the whole state.
Yeah.
So he had some advantages. His number one disadvantage, and I think you kind of touched on this, the way we did this with the regionality,
geographic,
you had to be contiguous, and we put in the rule. I don't know if we told you this. you could only be in 3 time zones. So he was completely locked out of the
Oh,
East
I got
time
you.
zone,
I
which
got
is
you.
all those big markets, the I-95 corridor and all those big markets
Yep.
East Coast. So he was completely locked out there. So,
But I felt stretching to Texas was as far as a Western
yeah.
conference
Yep.
can
Sure.
even go,
Yep.
right? Even
Yep.
that's stretching it. So I wasn't going to push the envelope any further than that. And I know we have a lot of people that are, old Pac
Yes.
fans, and a lot of, we're Mountain West, and we have a lot of Western fans, viewers that watch. So I don't think they're going to like some of what you said there, Kevin. But that's a good.
Yeah, I understand.
No. You were trying to get that, but there's good schools on the table that I didn't even take. Like Arizona was still there. They've been left off. I know we have a lot of Beavs and Cougs, Washington State,
Yep.
Oregon State fans. They weren't taken. Yes, I took UNLV at the end, mainly for media value. I want to be in Vegas. It's a growing spot. I mean, it's
Give me a market. Yep.
massively growing in sport interest now that they have NFL and NHL and all that.
Yep.
So that wasn't done because of the school UNLV. That was done out of the media stuff. But anyway, we could talk about me for forever. I'm just angry now.
I knew as soon as I was trying to school my reactions here, but as soon as you said, I was like, "Oh boy, JY's gonna be salty."
It was better this way, to be honest. It was better this way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
And the thing is, you made a great point though. One of the big limitations for the Pac and why they end up failing, a big part of our fan base is West Coast football fans. And
Yep.
there is
Yep.
a big fan base out there. However, a lot of that media value, for better or for worse, is out in those East Coast markets. And I think that did kind of hurt the Pac when they were looking for that Power 5 media deal and
Yep.
why maybe some of the big media companies didn't come through for them. So let's move on. Midwest, Steven. He's one of our he runs a Bobcat Corner
Bobcat Corner.
YouTube
Gotcha.
page. He's one of our loyal fans. So he's an Ohio Bobcat fan. And
Gotcha.
he started with Ohio State. My expectation was that he would kind of rebuild the Big Ten, but he took
Right.
a different route and kind of built an Appalachian Conference here, which again is really cool. Like I think that you would have a lot of interesting games in this, but maybe not the high media value, which is
Media value. Yep.
yeah, the
Yep.
lower valuation there. So that makes a lot of sense.
I think it's going to be interesting for Kevin to he only got the results, right?
Yeah.
So he didn't. I think it's going to be interesting. It is a long draft, Kevin. I'll warn you. This is a
Yeah.
very long episode, but it might be
Yeah.
interesting if if there's certain parts you want to hear people's opinion.
Yeah.
Well, why did they pick this here or that there? I think Kevin will probably enjoy hearing a
Yeah.
little bit of the rationale behind some of this stuff.
Yeah, you should
Liberty. Yeah. Like the
Liberty,
Liberty rationale. Right. What's the
Buffalo, he
rationale?
had Buffalo pretty early. He was trying to
All
get
right,
up in the New York markets.
All right.
But yeah, he definitely. I mean, he went a different route. It was interesting, and then that had domino effects on all the rest of us.
Right.
Sure. Yep. I see that.
So yeah. So then getting back to the South. So there's his first name is Bill. He runs the That College Football Guy YouTube page. Good friend of ours. Loyal viewer. He's a Tennessee Vols fan.
Yeah.
So he's definitely in that Southeast.
Gotcha.
He's a Bubba from the Southeast.
Yeah.
And that's
Enough
what
said.
he did.
Yep.
Yeah, he rebuilt that Southeast
I
Conference.
see that. Yep. He did. Piece by piece.
Yeah.
Round by round.
And then finally, last but not least, myself, the Penn State fan. I went this, and if you watch the video, you'll see my target was I looked at this as a what if. What if back in 1990, if instead of Penn State joining the Big Ten, they had joined the Big East, taken Notre Dame with them, because that was rumors back then. And
Yes.
so that was I went out to try and recreate the Big East with Penn State.
Okay.
Notre Dame kind of fell in my lap, as you'll see if you watch the thing.
Right.
But then I was kind of blocked by Bill. I didn't get. I wanted Florida State because again, Florida State was an independent back then. So if you'd had Florida State and Penn State join with the old Big East with Miami, those rivalries, that's where I was going with that. So you can kind of see that. Overall, give us just kind of your thoughts on the whole thing. What you think of the whole concept, and do you think this would work as a kind of a mini version of the NFL with these 4 conferences?
Yeah, I mean, I think it could very well be where we're going. We could look, other experts may look at this podcast video 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the road and say that you were all geniuses for doing it, and and your methodology and the approach. But I like the idea. I like the limitations because it does kind of you have to be kind of strategic, and I guess I'll watch the video to see how strategic everybody was. But it almost, because of the time zone limitations and the media component, it really forces you know, to think long and hard about which team you're going to add next. So I love the concept, and I could very well see this is what college football is going to be like down the road, and these kind of 3-4 power conferences and how it's structured.
Awesome. Well, that's all I have for you, Kevin. JY, you have any
Yeah,
final thoughts
perfect.
on
No,
this project?
I really appreciate it. You know, we like to have a good time on here, so I have to rag you since you gave me a 6 a little bit, but
Right.
totally understandable. So
I
yeah,
give you
well-
a 10. I give your team a 6. That's your
Okay.
conference a 6. But you.
So hey, we thank you for doing this, Kevin. Really
Happy to be
appreciate
here.
it. And yeah, with that, we'll kind of close this sucker up then. All right, Steve. Well, that was a lot of fun. Took a little while, but was a lot of fun. Where are we going next? What's next?
Well, first of all, I just want to say there were some twists and turns. Like you said, a lot of fun, a lot of twists and turns in that draft. So the next step is to get a valuation on this. So we're going to have a special guest, a sports lawyer that's going to come on in. He's going to give us a valuation and basically tell us the 4 conferences. He's not going to know who drafted them.
Yeah.
He's just going to look at the results and base it off of, you know, traditional rivalries, you know, the regionality aspect, and just the media markets and everything that goes into a media valuation. You know, not necessarily from a college sports fan, but more from one of the media companies. So we're going to bring him on. He's going to give us a valuation and just tell us what he likes and doesn't like about each conference.
All right, let's see what he says. All right, closing. You want me to start, or do you want to start? I don't remember. We just said thanks, Kevin. Really appreciate it. I don't remember really how we ended it, but
You can throw it to me for some thoughts, and then I'll
Okay.
throw it back to you, and you can just
okay. All right. 3, 2, 1. Well, there you have it, Steve. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you know, some surprises in the draft, okay, and which led to, you know, I think some maybe a little bit of surprise in the valuation. You know, we talked about, you know, Bill in the South just he rebuilt the SEC, tons of value there, big time programs, traditional rivalries, and the SEC has been the most valuable conference going forward, you know, for the last 20 years, close to it. So that made a lot of sense. You know, we saw the East, you know, having a lot of big markets, East Coast markets, and, you know, like Kevin said, there is some East Coast bias. It's not just us. It is the media and how they
Right.
show things on TV. And, you know, we talked about this in our episodes with Oregon State and Washington State, how they wanted to be on earlier in the day so they could get those highlights on. So there is some East Coast bias to it. You know, with the West, definitely you put together a great conference out West. You won the race to Texas, you know, a lot of value there. But as we saw with the Pac, you know, there was maybe some, because of the West Coast markets out there and that East Coast bias, that kind of hurts the value out West sometimes. And we saw that in kind of his blind valuation. And then, hey, the Midwest, Steven, we had a lot of fun with that. I expected, like we said with Kevin, I expected him to kind of rebuild the Big Ten, which he kind of started doing that, but then he went totally with an Appalachian conference. So
Yeah.
a lot of fun. It threw us a bunch of curveballs. He made some very interesting choices, and I think it totally changed the dynamics of the rest of us, where we went. And so I think overall those valuations make a lot of sense. If I was doing it, I do agree Bill had the highest conference. I think the East and West were very close and should have been maybe a little step behind him with I would have put maybe a little bit more separation between the Midwest and the West as far as value. But, you know, Kevin came in and did this blind. But overall, I thought this was a lot of fun. It kind of, I think it does show you that this could be done, that we could come up with 4 regional conferences, but that all have some value. But I think you'd really have to be really strategic with those restrictions on regionality.
Yeah.
You have to be strategic on getting certain key markets to have enough value that there's kind of equality, or it's going to make you run into the same problems that we've seen, which caused the Pac to collapse. So overall, I thought it was an interesting exercise. I had a ton of fun doing it. I can't wait to see the remarks and have them critique how we did. You won the race to Texas. I was I tried to rebuild the East, and then I was all over the place. Bill, I thought, did a great job, and Steven was definitely the most interesting. So a lot of fun. I'm glad we did it. Do you have any final thoughts before we close?
Well, I'm not surprised, Bill. We got off when we were done with the draft. I looked at him. It's clearly obvious to me who the winner, if you will, of it was. And, he didn't really go for geography much at all. He went with, and he said it during the draft, I'm taking the biggest names because he was worried about you coming down the East Coast and snatching up some of the big names. So he was just picking one off at a time, not really concerned, at least early on, about geography, because when you're in the Southeast, you take what you want. And when he got Tennessee, which I think was a school that you were kind of eyeing up, because it gives you a lot of those, a lot of states that touch it there. Just a really, really smart draft by him. And then, I think, and I understand there is truly an East Coast bias. I'm not saying there isn't one. But I like to think my Texas picks were maybe a little bit more than a 6. So I don't want to throw any shade at Kevin. I really appreciate his thoughts on that. But it's interesting because, when you are in the West, and as I said, I'm leaving some schools on the table there. And I am anxious to hear what some of the commenters have to say. I'm probably going to get a little hate for not picking the Wazoo and the Oregon State, and I left Arizona on the board and all that kind of stuff. So, it was interesting, and I really appreciated the way. I know it's not what any of us expected, and I think Steven knew that with the Midwest. I loved him coming out of the gate taking West Virginia. I thought that was a great pick.
Totally threw me off my game.
I loved it. That's why I loved it, because I knew it would. But and you could do this again and pick 4 other guys, and they would be completely different. But as Kevin said, you can see that it can be done, and maybe this is the future at some point. Who knows?
And so I do have actually one. I know I said I was done, but I have one additional thought. I think that if they did this for real life, I think, instead of a competitive draft like we did,
right,
I think they would actually have to have some kind of cooperation if you wanted to make them equal. Some kind of agreement, let's say with East and South, where, hey,
sure,
one gets Florida, one gets Florida State, something like that. In a real life scenario, if you wanted to make this where all 4 conferences are kind of roughly equal.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Well, this was a lot of fun. This was another one of your ideas. Really timely to do it here, getting this out in early July, and things are getting hot and heavy with college football. As our fans know and our viewers know, that is pretty much 99% of what we do. Have some fun with some other episodes, but we are pretty much all college football, and we're going to be doing previews for all the Big Ten schools, all the Mountain West schools. We're starting to do picks already on our live episodes. It is getting hot and heavy on the Big Mountain. I am excited. This was fun, and with that, we'll close her out. So, hey, if you made it this far, we know it was a long one, but we really appreciate you watching. Make sure you give this one a like. Subscribe if you like our content. We'll see you guys next time on The Big Mountain.